I save the world. I save the world.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. Very happy that you're all joining here. I want to thank the people who are watching these videos on the video platforms that we share them on. So this video is being shared on YouTube, but also on BitChute and on Rumble. So whatever platform you're watching the video on, please subscribe and come back and watch all of our videos. We have so many wonderful talks that are free for you to watch, so we really appreciate that. And leave a comment. That's really great too. Okay, my talk today, Milestones of Healing. Okay, I had what I would like to call a milestone on Wednesday night. On Wednesday night, I went to a rock concert. Woohoo! And I am not one that usually goes to rock concerts. I went to the One Republic show that was at the Shoreline Amphitheater in Mountain View, California, which is about an hour south of San Francisco, a little north of San Jose. Beautiful venue. One Republic is a very popular rock band. Been around for a while now, 15 years. If you don't know them, you know their big hits are Counting Stars and Apologize and Till the Love Runs Out. And they had a song in the new Tom Cruise Top Gun film. There were the song when they were all playing volleyball. It's a light, happy song called Ain't Worried About It. And that was big, and they had a big music video because of that song. Actually, during the concert, when they played that song, they had this big back projection, and Tom Cruise himself was projected on the back, and he said hi to everybody, and he talked about how great it was working with One Republic for his film, Top Gun Maverick. So that was sweet. The Shoreline Amphitheater is a really large open-air venue. There are 6,500 seats in the front section, but then 16,000 people can sit on the lawn. You know, it's really sweet because people can sit on the lawn for a much reduced price, and they have big videos there. You know, so it's a venue that's open to people of all income classes, and that's really a really sweet thing. That means that there are 22,500 potential concert goers there at any particular concert. And, you know, I was in the front section. I didn't see any empty seats. So I don't know exactly how many people were actually there. But let's say 20,000 plus people were at this concert, and very few of them had masks on. A couple had masks on. And you just have to remember that, you know, for the past 2.5 years, we have not been able to have concerts like this. So it was just a milestone that we were all there and we were all enjoying the music. The lead singer of One Republic is a man named Ryan Tedder. He's 43 years old. And he talked to the audience quite a bit, which was a sweet thing. And he said that we all have differences, you know, different politics and different lives, but we're all here together to have an experience of music. And so really, we're not all that different from each other, are we? And so that was a real wonderful thing. And, you know, a lot of people talk about how big concert experiences are really spiritual experiences for them, you know, being there, one with all the people, having the same experience. And it is a spiritual experience. It was a spiritual experience for me. And as I said, I'm not one to go to rock concerts or large concerts. I think the last one I went to was the Rolling Stones during one of their reunion tours, and it was like 15 or 20 years ago. So it's been a long time. But I wanted to go, and I wanted to go for a number of reasons. I wanted to go because I like this band, but I wanted to go because I just wanted to join my energy with the energy of healing that our society is having right now. The fact that we can have large gatherings like this is terrific. And I wanted to lend my energy to that wonderful, terrific healing energy. And I like One Republic, and I like a lot of their music, so I went. So yes, I am calling it a milestone. Um, the word milestone is an interesting word because it actually refers to something that's quite ancient. The ancient Roman civilization, one thing the Romans were really famous for was they made roads. The Roman roads, made with stone, and all throughout, first they were in Italy, but then they became all throughout the Roman kingdom. And on these roads, every so often, they put these big carved stone markers. And these stone markers that were on these roads, they told you how far you were, how far you had come from a particular city. And they also told you how far you had to go to another particular city. And sometimes they told you who the current emperor was. And so they were stones that said the distance, so they were milestones. And I got a little picture of one. I thought I'd do a little screen share of a milestone. Okay, you should be able to see that. This is what an ancient Roman milestone looked like. So you see, it's a big carved stone. And it had, different things carved on it. Maybe it had the emperor's name. I don't know. I can't read ancient Roman. But it talked about what cities and what direction and what the distance was from those cities. So that's what some of them look like. So they are what we call milestones. So we generally use the word to talk about some significant achievement, like it was a milestone. It was a milestone that we have rock concerts again. But don't forget that milestones not only marked how far we had come, they also marked how far we still had to go. And they also told us who maybe was in charge. So, yeah, I think being able to go to a big rock concert, that's a milestone of healing. We're not sitting in circles in the park. Then all the circles are 6 feet apart from each other. That's what it was like 2+ years ago. I didn't like that very much. 2 years ago, we were told not to be in gatherings of more than 6 people. And then maybe they changed it to 9 people. They were constantly changing the number of people that it was considered safe, that we could sit in gatherings with. It wasn't that long ago. I'm sure you all still remember. But last Wednesday night, I was with 20,000 plus. And yeah, I wanna note it. And I also want to note that it doesn't mean everything's over, and it doesn't mean that we're all healed. We still have a long way to go. But I also want to say who the emperor is. Who's the boss in charge here? And the boss in charge of this healing is God. God's in charge. And the Holy Spirit makes God's will decipherable for us here in the world. But through the Holy Spirit, we can know God's will, and God is in charge of this healing process that is going on. The healing of the COVID pandemic had several milestones in the past week or two. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. One of them I mentioned last week. So not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before that. On Thursday, August 11th, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, reversed its course on a number of its guidelines. And, some people heard about this, some people not. I would think it'd be a huge news story. It was a news story, but didn't get the press that I would think it would get, certainly the press that I would want it to get. But a big thing that the CDC said was that it was no longer necessary, according to them, to make any distinction between vaccinated and unvaccinated people. That for me is huge. And they said some other things too. They said there was no more reason to test people who didn't have symptoms. So no asymptomatic testing was needed anymore. And another big thing they said was that if you've been around somebody who had COVID, there's no reason for you to quarantine yourself anymore unless you develop symptoms yourself. So you could visit people who had COVID, or you could, just be in the space of somebody who had COVID. And that doesn't mean that you need now to quarantine yourself, which is what they had said before. So, this is all really, really kind of big stuff. Now, it doesn't mean that everything is hunky-dory and everything is wonderful, but it does show how far we have come. And I think it's good to acknowledge this. And it's a little bit of a resting place. It's a period of respite, as the reading said, that reading that Reverend Paula read so wonderfully. It said, the teacher of God needs this period of respite. He has not yet come as far as he thinks. And yet, when he is ready to go on, he goes with mighty companions beside him. So the mighty companions, I feel that we are all mighty companions for each other. We gather here each Sunday and in other groups that we go to, and we become mighty companions for each other. Mighty companions who remind us of the truth when we tend to forget, and mighty companions just to show us that we're connected and to give us love to feel and to heal us. And I appreciate all the mighty companions that we have manifested through our 36 plus year experience of Community Miracles Center. And we still have far to go. We still have far to go in us really understanding that it is the body's natural ability and tendency to manifest health. Our bodies want to be healthy and naturally will be healthy. And, there's a lot of narrative. I talked about this last week. There's a lot of narrative that says that the body, seems to be inherently flawed and weak, both internally through genetics and open to all kinds of things externally, pathogens and diseases. But, that's not true. At least according to A Course in Miracles, when I get it from A Course in Miracles, the body's natural state is like the mind's natural state, which is healthy. And in those times when we are not manifesting health, we have connection to the Holy Spirit that gives us the guidance that we need to get the manifestation of healing that we want or that we are entitled to. And we can find medical professionals that will join with us and help us and give us some expertise so that we can, again, manifest our more perfect nature. And, the doctor-patient relationship, that's a wonderful thing. When I was ill last January, I had a very difficult time getting the medicine that my doctor prescribed for me. That medicine wasn't allowed. And it was really challenging to get. Regular pharmacies wouldn't fill it. I had to find a special pharmacy in order to get the medicine that my doctor had prescribed for me. But I turned it over to the Holy Spirit, and I know God was in charge, and God was the emperor there. And I was able to get the medicine that my doctor prescribed for me, and I felt good about it, and I healed. Woohoo! It was just about a year ago, just a year ago, that I heard that San Francisco, a city that I live in, was going to start excluding unvaccinated people from restaurants. And, that bothered me. I was, an unvaccinated person, and I didn't like being excluded, especially considering I thought I was healthy. Why would I not be able to eat inside a restaurant? And I remember talking to a friend of mine about that, and he said, well, yeah, but you can eat outside. And then I thought, you mean like outside, like in the colored section, where it's cold and wet? Yeah, I should be happy because you're letting me eat outside? Were African Americans happy that they had their own bathrooms? I mean, there were the colored bathrooms. Why did they get upset that they couldn't use whatever bathroom they wanted? They had their own bathrooms. this was part of the sickness of society. And this was part of the sickness of society that I think we're on the course to end now. So I'm, very, very happy that we are not seeing any need to designate between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated and to have that form of segregation. People forget we had colored water fountains and white water fountains. Because why? Because the colored people had some sort of what? Cooties that the white people didn't want to catch? This stuff is, it's insidious. And I think it tried to work its way back into our culture over this COVID pandemic, and that has, well, it's ending. People don't have to accept the CDC guidelines. But I've also heard that a large civil liberties legal organization has now announced that it is ready to take on cases for people who feel that they're still being discriminated against because of their vaccine status, now that the CDC has definitely said that there is no recommendation to do that anymore. We have to look at these things. I'm sorry if some of these things seem unpleasant to look at. But A Course in Miracles tells us that we have to look at them. It says, look fairly at whatever makes you give each other only partial welcome or would let you think that you were better off apart. So we got to look fairly at these things, whatever they are, vaccine status or whatever it is, that we would only give certain people partial welcome or think that somehow we would be better off apart. There's an old secular expression. It says, confession is good for the soul. Well, I guess the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is trying to heal their soul. Because just this past Wednesday, on August 17th, same day I was going to the concert, the CDC admitted that it had failed. What they said, they didn't use the word failure, but the CDC's director, Rochelle Walensky, said this. This is an actual quote. Said, for 75 years, CDC and public health have been preparing for COVID-19. And in our big moment, our performance did not reliably meet expectations. Basically, the mitigation strategies that the CDC recommended didn't work. And then she made that statement because she was announcing a top to bottom restructuring of the CDC, of the agency. Now, some people think the people that created the problem shouldn't be the people to try to fix the problem, that they should get in some new minds in there to look at the problem. And some people felt that her mea culpa was not as remorseful as it should have been. I was one of those people. I thought she should be a little more remorseful. But it was great. I was glad to see it. And I also was wondering why. Who's putting pressure on the CDC to make them backpedal in these huge ways twice in a week? I don't know. But I was grateful that some progress is being made and some semblance of sanity in my view of things as being reestablished. Course in Miracles says all beliefs that lead to progress should be honored. So it was progress. I want to honor it. Course in Miracles says every step we take brings us a little nearer. So I saw this as a step. The CDC was admitting that it had not functioned very well, and that was progress. And I felt good about that. You got to take it in. A very major, huge public health organization admitted that they did not handle public health very well. And what's underneath this? The USA has some of the worst statistics about COVID, mortalities, and serious illness in the world. So all that the CDC recommended and all the mitigation and all the things that we did, masks and social distancing and shelter in place, mass vaccination, it didn't help us. There are third world countries in Africa that had very low vaccine uptake and that didn't have the mitigation strategies that we did. And they had way better statistics about COVID-19 than the USA had. They also had availability of early treatment, readily available, proven safe medications like the one I tried to take that I had trouble filling. Medications that we've been taking for decades, proven safe, that our medical establishment said weren't appropriate. But these third world countries, poor countries in Africa, had access to those, and their statistics on COVID are way better than our statistics on COVID. They didn't have vaccine mandates. They didn't segregate the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. They didn't have vaccine passports. I feel really lucky. I feel fortunate. I feel blessed. It's not luck that we didn't go that way of vaccine mandates like China did, like Canada's trying to do. That's like digital surveillance of every citizen in the country. Do we really want our government to be keeping track of our every move digitally? I think we should think about that. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? This week, another milestone. U.S. District Judge Steve Maraday ruled on Thursday that the U.S. Marines who were getting ready to get kicked out of the military, who were not granted religious exemptions that they applied for to make them exempt from having to take the vaccine. So they were getting ready to get expelled from the Marines, and this federal judge said, no, you can't expel them. We have to wait for this case to work through the courts, put a stay on that, and so these Marines still have their jobs and their retirements and their careers. And that was I think, quite a victory, and a great victory for religious freedom. Religion, imagine that, religion, having a victory. I think that's really terrific. I think that's a milestone, and I think God is in charge of that one too. God's the emperor in that milestone. You know, in November of 1945, the Nuremberg trials began in Nuremberg, Germany, to prosecute war crimes from Germany. And a lot of them had to do with medical experiments and how doctors did medical experiments on people against their will. They sterilized hundreds of thousands of women who they felt were undesirable. They killed hundreds of thousands. Then they killed millions by killing the Jews. But, just stick with the medical experiment part of it. They were trying for a form of eugenics, of culling the race. So the Nuremberg trials lasted for about 2 years, and they ended in August of 1947. And they came up with a code, the Nuremberg Code of 10 principles. And they're really interesting to read. And they're interesting, especially considering what we've just been through in this country and in the world for the past couple of years. Because a lot of it violates the Nuremberg codes. I'm just going to read one of the codes. Code number 1. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. Telling you that you're going to lose your job, that you're going to lose your career, because you don't consent to a medical procedure, like the Marines were being told? Even just telling people that they got to eat outside because we wouldn't consent to a medical procedure? That's against the Nuremberg Code. And while we've come a long way now to dropping those things, at least in this country, some countries haven't yet, but at least in this country, we've got a long way to go. And the people who perpetrated this are likely to try it again. But there's been milestones over the past couple of weeks. And these milestones are telling us how far we've come. But they also, tell us how far we've yet to go. But God's in charge. The emperor is in charge. And I feel confident that freedom, such an important attribute in the A Course in Miracles teaching, consistent individual freedom of a person to make his own spiritually guided choice, is winning the day. God's the emperor. God's in charge. See the milestones, but remember how far we've yet to go yet. That's my talk for today. Thank you very much.
Open my eyes to see. Woke up my head to beat. Woke up my heart to be free. Woke up our world, you and me. I've opened up my heart. I'm at the start. I save the world. I save the world. I save the world. I save